Stacy Giamarco, and we're here with the 12th and final edition of our Growing Together video series. Thank you all for joining us these past 12 weeks. Hopefully you've found all of our videos to be very informative, and I think this week will be no different. We are here to talk about family therapy, and with us this week is another amazing therapist we have here at Red Oak Behavioral Health, Michael Montgomery. Michael is one of our therapists at Ennis Middle School and Akron Public School Systems. And we're going to learn all about family therapy, what it is, the techniques that are used, and some of the goals and outcomes that you can expect through family therapy. So thank you so much, Michael, for being here with us. So let's dive right in. Tell us, what is family therapy?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I think this is a worthwhile series. I hope at the end we can at least get a baseline of what family therapy is and how it works. And I'm hoping not to scare you away, but get more people involved. So, family therapy, of course, as the name says, it deals with the whole family. And we're also called systems therapists. So we look at the family as a part of a larger system. The nuclear system, of course, could be dad, mom, children. Today, 2 dads, 2 moms, stepmom, whatever it is in that nuclear family. And then from there, we extend out to the surrounding family. And then the school systems, the legal system, other systems that the children or the family might be involved in. And we take into account the whole system and how it impacts. And we try to work within the system to help everybody have a greater understanding of each other and how what they're doing as individuals impacts that system, which is that nuclear family.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So break it down for us. What are the techniques that you found to be the most successful in dealing and kind of experiencing family therapy dynamics?
Well, I think across all theories, so family therapy is made up of so many theories. It started with, I believe in the 50s, with Bowen, Jay Haley. These individuals started with how this family, what we have is what you call triangulation. So you and I, we may be married and we may have a child, and one of us triangulates with the child to make our relationship more stable, because we can't handle communication between us two. So we will then put a lot of energy into the child. So a family therapist wants to come in and break the triangulation and put the family back on even footing. And there are also some theories that believe families are more hierarchical. So you have dad and mom as the top tier. You have children under that. But today, what we really need to understand is that families are very nebulous. They're ever changing. So you might have a mom who's a single parent who doesn't see her child as beneath her, but on the same level as her. And in some regards, that works. In others, it could cause major conflict. So for me, my number one goal coming in is to join the system. So in joining the system, you must become a part of the system. So I usually speak about how different families are even within cultures. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm African American, and being from the South, Florida, I moved all the way to Minneapolis, and there's a great difference between a Southern African American family and a Northern African American family, and the therapist needs to be aware of that difference, because he or she will begin working with the family as if they're Southern style, as we say, and not understanding that the Northern African Americans doesn't have the same values and goals as the Southern. Not saying the Southern is better. Possibly it is, but that's my bias. But it's just different. So we have to come in first to really understand the family for who they are. Caucasian family is going to be different than how I work with Native Americans. And being from Minneapolis, We have Somali families, and they're, you know, very different. And then we have Hmong families. So you have to learn first all you can for cultures, understanding are they matriarchal, are they patriarchal, um, can women speak in this culture, do men allow themselves to be asked questions. So in Minneapolis they had a big Nigerian populations, and there are times where, you know, I was had to be taught that you don't ask a Nigerian man certain questions in front of his wife because now you're disrespecting him.
Okay.
So these are just some of the things that you really should learn first about the culture, and then join the family and become a part of it and work within that family. So that's what we do. There's this thing, it's called family sculpturing.
Okay.
It's really about playback therapy. So if I was working with you and your family had a difficult situation, I would say to you, to your child, and to your significant other, why don't we play that scene back? And this time, Stacy, I want you to position everybody where they were during this exchange. And you get to point their fingers, you know, you get to tell them to make an angry expression, or for the child a scared expression, and then we just stop the scene right there, and each family talks about how that feels. And then we will play it back, and you get to sculpt the family in ways that you would like for them to have dealt with that situation. And it's very powerful because dad gets to see how he played a role in making that child feel, you know, voiceless, scared, afraid, and oftentimes traumatized. It works really well with alcoholic families. You got to be very careful because it can have some, it can backfire working with domestic abuse. You know, whomever is the perpetrator will feel marginalized and criticized. I can't believe you did that in front of Michael. You know, made me look like it was all my fault. So you have to be very careful. So let's see what other techniques we use. We talk about the miracle question. Now let's imagine tonight you lay down, you go to bed, and a great miracle happened overnight, and this family was happy. How would we know? What would it look like? And you ask each one, how would dad, you know, be? Oh, dad would take me fishing, and you know, he would spend more time at home. Mom would do more with us. You know, she wouldn't be so busy. And the mom gets to say, well, you know, the children would clean their room, and dad would, you know, buy me flowers, and dad gets to say, well, you know, Johnny will cut the grass, and you know, things of that nature. So different techniques we use to break what we call homeostasis, which is the natural state of a family to stay the same. You know, change is hard, and one of the most difficult things to break within the family is homeostasis. And one of the things that we see as dangerous is the notion that what happens in this family stays within the family. That's dangerous in certain regards because you don't allow new information to come in, and you don't allow information to go out. So we don't know how bad the situation is. It could be very toxic, and if it stays there, it's difficult for that system to self-correct when they're getting the same information and they're on what we call the loop, the negative loop. This is what we do. This is how we deal with it. When Johnny acts out in school, we don't try to understand why he's acting out. We just tell him he's horrible and go to your room, and I'm gonna take your PlayStation and your phone, and inevitably Johnny's gonna act out again, and we do the same thing. So this family has a difficult time moving from punishment to understanding to working within the child
Mm-hmm.
to get him or her to do a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the techniques we use. And there's just so many more.
So it sounds like there's a certain point, I know, in working with the schools, and I know this is a subject you're deeply passionate about.
Very much so.
So, as a person learning about what family therapy is and the root of how it works, is this something that you identify within kids you're working with in the schools or in your other places you've lived? You work individually with one of the family members and say, oh, hey, I think we're at a point now that we need to get everyone here at the table.
Yeah, it happens that way. Back, previous life in Minneapolis, I had a private practice that dealt primarily with family therapy. And it's usually what happened is the child is dysregulated. And when we bring in the mom or grandma or whoever is the guardian, sometimes they say, well, he doesn't act like this at home. So, well, how does he act? And we start talking about that. And then as we're talking with the family, usually the parent will say, I just wish we could have some family therapy. There are things that we need to work with. There's things that we need to talk about. There's things that I think family therapy could help. So it's a both and.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll come in and they want it, and sometimes you can recognize it. And for me, the saddest thing is working with a child, and you're really working with him or her, and they're doing their best, and you're sending them back to the same system that helped produce them, and you're doing nothing with the system, but you're expecting him to make progress, and it's hurtful because I believe that they're trying really hard, but the system won't allow them to change. Quick example, work with adults treatment center. That's where my office was, and I had a client, and he did treatment. He was working with me, individual therapy, and he went out. It was inpatient, and he was allowed to go out, and his family was happy to see him. They had a celebration. They were drinking, and he was telling them, I can't drink. The family wouldn't allow him not to. What do you mean you don't drink? This is what we do. You're better than us? Well, how dare you? Instead of supporting his sobriety, they were trying to get him back to the homeostasis of this is what we do. So that's kind of like what happens with the child. We're working with them in the school, but they're going back to possibly a toxic system that won't allow them the latitude to change because the system is not allowing them to change.
So, what do you think? What's the overall goal when we're talking about family therapy? I mean, certainly it's to provide that sort of sense of harmony within the system, the family system. But what are the goals and how do you achieve them?
Again, the goals, there can be many goals, so it's family to family. So for some family, it's increased communication. For other families, it's to decrease family violence, anger. I would say the consistent is teaching families to have greater understanding of each other, to have greater empathy, working with families on how to get to a problem and not do the same thing, but teaching them different ways of dealing with it that would not be so defeating, traumatizing, finger pointing, scapegoating. Those are things that we teach families not to do. And those are most of the goals. So it's really that increased communication, understanding, bringing anger down, and of course, zero tolerance for violence. Zero. We don't, as we should. We don't tolerate any violence.
Absolutely.
Right.
So just curiously, I've certainly heard of family therapy, maybe more marriage counseling is sort of a leading term.
Yeah.
You know, this sounds like something that just makes so much sense. Why? I know we're at Red Oak trying to embark upon more of this focus. It seems so simple and natural, and should be what we're all doing is, you know, even if the system at home is quote unquote pretty good, it just
Right.
seems like everyone should be involved in this, particularly if a child is struggling with any mental health diagnosis. So what are some of the challenges that you as a professional see in getting that word out? Is it just people like to keep their business kind of thing?
Well, you know, Minneapolis, the Minnesota area, Wisconsin, Iowa, it's huge in California. So Midwest Minnesota is family centered. Everything starts from the center. A lot of the leading therapists now come from the Minneapolis, Milwaukee area, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that it sounds so like, yeah, you know, that makes sense, but it is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Family therapy is high emotion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're someone that struggles with that, it's not going to be for you, because if this family has had issues, they're going to bring them in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, sometimes, the therapist will allow themselves to be that, like the lightning rod, like bring it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard getting the word out because people don't really know much about it. It's fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
It's just from the 50s and 60s. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, by mental health standards, that's new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Freud and all those are in the 1800s, and they have this long established, you know, that psychoanalytic mental health is great, you know, but the family, you know, like I said, it just came around to Leave It to Beaver. You know, dad, you know, father knows best. Happy Days, you know, it
Mm-hmm.
came from that. So I try to get the word out. I try to get individuals to see the benefit. I don't know why it has not caught on so much in this area.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Iowa, California, but not so much here. And even when I go back home to Florida, it's not really big in the South, which is kind of amazing to me, because
Mm-hmm.
South, you know, my South that I'm from, my culture, family is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I wish it would catch on more. It's so needed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really is. It's really needed, and that's my very biased and humble opinion.
Well, I know that we feel so fortunate to have you on board here, and if you have any say, it's going to just skyrocket here in our community. And with you leading the way, it'll be wonderful. And I really appreciate you bringing this subject to our attention and for those that are watching, because I do think, you know, as the saying goes, it takes a village, and
Absolutely.
the village needs to all come together sometimes. And,
Very well said. That's true.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time
Thank
and,
you.
and expertise. And we thank all of you for joining us again this week. And as I mentioned, this will conclude our Growing Together video series. And once again, thank you for watching every week and going down this journey of learning with us. And until next time, just know that Red Oak is here for you. If at all you need to talk with someone, you know, we have wonderful therapists just like Michael that are here to sit with you and talk with you. So just please give us a call, 330-996-4600. Thanks so much. Stay safe and be well.